In this section, we're going to be looking at examining conditions. This is the beginning of branching. Theoretically, when you're looking at the flow charts and you find a decision in the flow of the program, you have two branches or maybe more branches. There's a true or false in this case, two branches. Now, let me just explain the other languages like C++ or Java. They have this symbol called the ternary, the question mark, and the full colon. It's called the ternary operator. How it works in these languages is the condition, which is in brackets, test, expression, then question mark, then we put if true. It's supposed to be if true, return this. If false, return this. That's how it works in C+ and Java. Okay, this is much more applicable in C++ and Java. It's good to explore some of these languages afterwards, but I want to show you how this becomes quite simple in Python. Unlike Python, I would say in Python, it's like this. It does not have the ternary operator, but it has instead a conditional expression that works in a similar way using if and else keywords. So in Python, we're going to use if and else as the key words. This is very important to notice, if and else. So I just underline these ones, if and else as the keywords. Now we're going to see how this works. So it will be like this example, how it's done in Python. So it looks like this. So the expression, it will be if dash, if true, what you do, you return this. Okay, if true, return this. If expression, so you're going to have the expression in place, expression, okay, else, can you see, if that first expression is not fulfilled or it's exhausted, the next else, if false, we need you to return this. In other words, if the first expression is false, you should do this expression and return this, the alternative. So this is a very important syntax operation that you've got to know. Now, let us see how it works in practice. And I can say before we go there, if true, dash, you can do this. You can do any conditions you want. If, for example, variable is equal to 1, okay, else if false, do this. So in conditions, you're giving alternatives. There must be alternatives. If the first condition is not right, so what are we going to do? So you give alternatives. So this is the way branching works. But now let's go and do some bit of work. The beauty of using conditions, you can solve a lot of problems when you're doing loops and so forth, and you have to choose between different sets of data and you create ranges. So let us say, let us give a further example before we start something practically that you can see. We can also look at, for example, this says C equals A if the expression in brackets A less than B else B. So we are saying C is equal to A if A is less than B, else B. Now, this type of logic becomes so crucial for programmers as we begin to do certain types of problem solving. Now, let's go and have a demonstration of how this works. We're going to go and do step one. I'm going to hashtag one, step one. I'm going to hashtag this one so that they don't execute. We put the notes for reference as you are playing back these video clips. You can see the reasoning where we're coming from. It's important that as a student of Python, you know some of these essential explanations because they'll build your programming skills to the highest level. So let's go and do the step one. We're going to start a new Python script. Now here we are going to initialize, always declare the variables a is equal to 1, the declaration, and b is equal to 2. Remember always to do this when you are programming. It's neater. There are some programmers who are as neat as possibly you can be because they do declarations. So we've declared variables. The next, we're going to now add a statement. So here I'm just going to hashtag and say add a statement. Add statements. Statements, these are actual executable set of codes that we need. We're going to ask we're going to add statement to display the results of the conditional test, okay, of the conditional inspection or evaluation. Very important. So once we do this, it'll become clear how Python works. Now I'll put dash here because when we evaluate the condition, we are describing the second variable. Yes, we are describing the first variable values. Let us see now. We're going to say print brackets. So here we are now starting to put a coding together. Variable a is, that's a statement, is 1. Okay, and that one is a string, a displayable string, because we put it in the is 1. Variable a is 1. Okay, if a is equal to 1, else not 1. So it's going to examine the condition. If what you've said there is true, it will give you the alternative. Let's also do together print. I always say copy to save time because we're going to do this several times. Copy that statement, then edit it. So it's even. So we're going to say print A is even. Okay. Is even if B. So if A, remember the modulo stuff? If A modulo 2, so the modulo gives a remainder which is 0. In other words, the divisor and the divis things are equal. If there's a remainder, then it's odd. So else is not even. which means it's odd. You can put a statement that you want to display there. So what are we saying? That print variable a is even if a divided by 2 as a remainder 0, else it's odd. Let's see if it's done properly. We can execute these conditions. Let us see. Very good. So variable a is 1 if a is equal to 1, which is true. And if we divide a by 2, the remainder is 0, then it is even. And it's true because if we divide 1 by 2, there's a remainder, so it's odd. Let's see what happens if we switch the numbers here and we run that. Yeah, variable a is not 1 because it's not 1. So it has printed the alternative, else not 1. At first, it printed the condition when it was true. So if I change that one back to 1, so variable a is 1. If a is equal to 1, a indeed is equal to 1, it must return the 1 answer. Yeah, let's run it. There you go, 1. But if it's false, it will return this one. You see, unlike the ternary operator, here we use a different syntax. If, else. If true, return this, else return this. So that's a syntax. So equally here, we can test this one. Let's put 1 there. Still odd. Yeah, can you see? Now, if I want this to be true, if I put that to be 2, what will happen here? Even. Can you see? A is equal to even. If I divide a by 2, there'll be a remainder. There'll be no remainder, so which means it's going to be 0. Hence, this should be even. Now it is even. These are conditions. So when you're learning programming, start with the flowchart. The flowchart will show you how the algorithm is going to be working, and then test the algorithm in the actual coding, and that's important. Now let's also add another statement to display the results of conditional evaluation describing the second variable's value. Okay, let's try that one. So I'll switch back the numbers, 1. But with this short explanation, you can literally do any conditional tests. But let's go through the third step. So in this one, we are going to do what? We are going to add. I always copy this one. I'll copy that. Running comments are very good. Imagine you've done this. Add the statement to display the results of conditional evaluation describing. Imagine you've done this 6 months later ago, and then you want to look at what were you doing here. The comments will actually help you catch up with the coding pretty quick. Yeah. So we're going to add statements to display the results of conditional evaluation describing the second variable's value. Here at first, the first one was the first. It was the first. I'll just copy that. Yeah, meaning it's the conditional is true. Okay. Although I've done some augmentation. First, you put the first. You understand what I'm doing here? Here we are showing when it is the truth. And here we're going to show another way. I'll just copy one of these statements and paste it. Once I do this, we're going to say print B. Yeah, print B is 1. B is 1 if B is equal to 1. I mean, don't worry about memorizing these things. Practice using them over and over, and they tend to stick in your head after a while. They say practice makes perfect. Okay, else not 1. Else not 1. It's the same thing for A. We're just changing the then I'm going to copy that, because the more you think through these things and you practice them, the easier it becomes for you to learn programming. Is even if B, same things. I just want to the same conditions, is equal to 0, else odd. The capital O, yeah. Is it a capital O there as well? Then put a capital O there. So you see how this is going to run. There you go. Yeah, can you see? So B is even. Why? Because B is 2 divided by 2 is even. Doesn't return a remainder. This is how you test conditions. And we can add a step where we look at the greater than or less than. So here we're going to do then we're going to add a statement, and this statement will do the comparison in different way. First, we're going to assign the result of a conditional statement, of a conditional evaluation, conditional evaluation. You see, with programming is you reflect. Tomorrow morning, you got new ideas simply from the core solution that you're working with. You got new ideas that surfaces. So we're going to assign this. We're going to do maximum. Max is equal to, listen to this very carefully, A, if this condition is true. Okay, if A is greater than B. So I'm assigning value to a variable max to be A if A is greater than B, else B becomes the maximum. Can you see that? So let us see. Now here we see A is 1, B is 2. So I'm comparing these two. But for me to compare them properly and see which one I want to return, I must assign one of these to the word max. It could be low. Low is equal to A if A is greater than B, else B. It will work the same way, but you need to make sure that you understand what type of problem you are solving. Okay, if you want the program to go straight to that, we're just going to hashtag these ones. Let's see if that works. Yeah, because here, this line number 19 depends on the results of the print statements here to display the outcomes of that. Let us look at that. Else B, let us see, yeah, there you go. So here we are going to add the print because we have assigned them. For us to display, we need to print. Now let us print. The code is workable. It says execution is successful. Now we need to display the result of that. Are you with me? It's very important. So we're going to use a same print. So we're going to say print. And with a quotation, closing speech there. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So this statement 20 is going to print the results of that. This print gives a visual of the actual execution behind the scene. Now let's run it. Greater value is 2. Okay. Greater value is 2. And we know which is 2 is B. We can even put extra things there for us to see the displays. So we are saying maximum, print the maximum. So we code this variable assignment there. What if we switch numbers? There you go. It compares, it picks up the biggest number between the two. Greater value is 3. Okay. Once you do this, I always say, you highlight that, copy that, and go in your Google Docs or Notepad and save and paste, copy paste, because you need that syntax somehow later. So with this, I'd like to say thank you for listening and following this topic, and I trust that you're going to put the work into practice and apply it to any assigned problem you are trying to solve using Python.